much different set. Oh, that's new. Okay. So much different session. So we definitely want tonight to be more of a conversation than like our traditional like presentation style. So,
Well, hold on.
oh, cool. I'm gonna mute or just get people muted here. 1 second. All right, cool. So I think that the format, the way it's gonna work is I want to talk through just the perspective of a hiring manager and the way that they look at hiring materials. And so just a quick primer here. I'm a director of engineering. I probably look at about 50 applicants for various roles each month on like a normal month, much higher if it gets crazy. And also been in boot camp as well too. And so I've started 3 boot camps across country, and I've been teaching boot camp for roughly 4 or 5 years. Rachel, of course, is with the boot camp right now at Prime Digital Academy, which is where we know a lot of folks. So, and then on top of that, I've been in the industry for about 15 years. And so I think one of the reasons I wanted to put together this specific session is like, there is definitely like kind of like a disconnect sometimes to just understanding of like, I feel like a lot of times, like sometimes when you're applying for a job or when graduates are applying for a job, they tend to like over personalize some things or overemphasize on some things. And so I kind of want to just give some insight tonight into terms of like, what is it that, you know, as I'm looking to hire somebody, what is it that I'm looking at specifically? And just give you kind of an idea of what's important, what's not. And then also on the call is my architect for my company, who also looks at least 50 resumes and applications and profiles each week. And so Matt Burke is joining us from Artisan as well too. So he's raised his hand. So I definitely want to get his perspective on things. And I think together we're going to kind of just talk a little bit about how the process goes and hopefully give you some insight. And the goal, of course, of this is just to have conversation for y'all to ask questions and get some, you know, just get clarity on whatever it is that you're looking for. So we're going to do a portfolio review, and we had two people volunteer, which means we'll probably get to roughly spend about 25 minutes on each person's, and just kind of taking a look and seeing what resources others are applying with, and hopefully you can kind of apply that to your materials. I think if I understand correctly, both of you are out of market now, meaning both of you are not available. Yep. Yeah, you both. Yeah. Okay, cool. So they actually, when they submitted stuff, I didn't actually, I think they were still hunting, but I think within the past week and a half, you both have found employment. So this materials work. So we're going to start off by saying what they actually are showing us tonight is stuff that has worked. But I just want to give you an idea. Once again, it's not about being good or bad. It's really just more about what we see versus what you think we see, that sort of thing. And so then we'll pause and ask questions and talk about it and go from there. Sound good? Cool. We're going to fire up McKinley's first. So let me share my screen. My dog is crying in the background, so if you hear him whining, I apologize. So share. And can you all see my screen? Someone give me a thumbs up. All right, cool. All right, so first up is McKinley's. And so first off, one thing that's really important to understand is that when we, like when Matt and I work with the recruiting team, typically we get a link to a candidate profile. It's usually through what's called an ATS system or automated tracking system. There's not really much automated to those PS. There's a really good person you should follow on LinkedIn if you want to learn more about ATS systems. Her name is Amy Miller. And she does a really good job breaking down what ATS systems actually do and what they don't do. And so she's actually a senior technical recruiter for Amazon. And she just deals with a huge volume of applicants. And so she has a lot to say about what the ATS systems actually do, because there's a ton of misinformation out there about ATSs. So I'm going to talk about it from my perspective and from our perspective at Artisan. And the ATS system that we use is a system called Paycor. And really, like when we look at profiles, we don't really, it's like I said, it's really just more about an aggregate of like materials. So we get kind of an idea of the conversations you're having with the recruiters, you know, your resume, of course. And then, you know, from there, we can kind of just leave notes. It's really not overly like technical. So when we see a resume, we typically see it the way that you intend us to see it. I will say sometimes formatting gets a little bit crazy. So I actually don't pay a ton of attention to formatting because I'm just assuming that whatever you did in formatting wise, the ATS probably broke it. So at this point, once you start looking at a ton of resumes, you kind of start like seeing past the layout. In fact, I prefer these kinds of layouts that are just more like simple black and white, simple laid out. They typically read really well with ATS systems. I suppose that would probably be a little bit different if like you're going for a design role, although I have looked at some UX resumes as well too, and typically those are pretty simple as well. And one of the other big things I want to say tonight is that there are a ton of different preferences as well. So like I am just one simple perspective. Like this is just some insight to the way a set of hiring managers look at things, not like the way like hiring managers look at things. And so anyone who claims like they know on LinkedIn, like what they know, what people are looking for is like not accurate because like what they prefer might be different than what I prefer. So immediately on the technical side, if I'm hiring a technical role, we're going to compare that against the job posting itself, kinda. So one other kind of big important note here is that when we post a role, we have a very specific need in mind. So at our organization, Artisan Technology Group, we are a agency. And what that typically means is that we pair up with other parties and we're hired as like a third party to help them develop some sort of solution, usually code-based. And when I'm hiring based off of need, meaning that I am filling my ranks because I sold a project or I'm about to sell a project and I want to like get this person ramped in to take over the work that I have for that particular client. Now, whether or not those details make it into the posting is kind of a grab bag because one client might need Flask, another client might need, Django, kind of just pointing back to what we were talking about last week, or one client might need Azure, another client might need AWS. And so I would say something like, oh, I need a Python developer who has cloud experience. So automatically, one of the things I think a lot of people try to account for is they try to account to like have technology matches that match to the job posting. And I think it's a good strategy, especially if they explicitly call out a specific technology. But for the most part, you want to show breadth. Like we definitely like just hired somebody who has a primary Java backend that we plan on putting in .NET. We communicated that during the interview process and like they know. But the reason we talked to him was not because he had a big variety of .NET experience. It's really more about just his experience as a whole. So my point is you're going to come across two different job postings. One will be really focused on particular technology set. And I think that right away is important to get in your resume if you have those technologies. The other one is more of like a generic, like I can do lots of good things. So I'm going to compare, or when I talk about these, I'm going to talk about from our perspective of Artisan's perspective of like, hey, we have general job postings. And so we're going to be looking for breadth rather than specific, but specific is important too. Immediately, I'm going to be honest with McKinley and everybody here. I'm going to go immediately to the first thing I'm going to look for is tech skills. I want to see what you've looked at. Professional summaries are great. I think that those are important to put up front. Those really matter to our recruiters. They're really trying to make a human connection. The question I'm trying to answer immediately, probably within the first like couple minutes of looking at your resume is, do I think you can do the job or at least get some traction on doing the job that I have posted? So I love personally having the tech skills up top. The next thing I'm going to do is this all kind of happens like very subconsciously within a couple seconds, is that I'm going to look at to see if the technology I need matches. And then I'm going to see if it is worked into your work experience. So one of the tricks with a resume like this is I actually have no idea how much Node versus Flask you've done. So I'm trying to immediately kind of index what are you better at? Because I'm assuming, and I've been doing this long enough, that not all of these bullet points are equal in terms of your ability to execute. So out of the gate, let's say if I was hiring a Node developer, my assumption is that you probably have written a lot of Node just because it's listed, in the first column, and that Node probably has more priority than, let's say, Flask. So the first thing I'd do if I was looking for Node, it would be, do I see that within kind of this upper fold of the resume? So I would love to lie to you and be like, I'm going to read your resume word for word. I'm not. I'm scanning. And as the person who's like screening it technically, I'm looking to see, do these technical skills, do they map back into something in work experience? So out of the gate, let's say I was looking for Node. It says our team uses JavaScript Redux, React Redux, Redux Saga, MySQL, HTML, CSS, AWS Lambda. So immediately knowing tech, I'm assuming that you have some sort of serverless setup because I'm not seeing Node. I do see JavaScript and I see AWS Lambda. So I'm saying, okay, well, within our upper fold, probably no Node. So I might scan down just to see in terms of more relevant experience, like, assuming this is laid out reverse chronologically, I'm looking for Node. So now I know she used Node in this project, at least I'm guessing. I'm assuming, McKinley, you did.
I did. I don't think I wrote it.
Yeah, right. Don't apply for Node jobs. No, I'm just joking. But basically, but that's kind of like the psychology is that, I think, if you list it up here in tech skills, you absolutely have to list it somewhere down here. And I could probably find Node's listed right here in this at the end of the first page. But let's say I was hiring for a Node job, I would probably pass on you, honestly, within a couple seconds because I didn't see the Node. But once again, I'll be really clear about something. This is not because you didn't do it, but because it wasn't communicated, it wasn't put forward, right? And so this is all about kind of, once again, trying to figure out weight of the technology that and I think that's a really hard trick for a lot of those who hire, is trying to figure out how well do you know something. So here's another example. I'm going to go to my LinkedIn profile here. This is one of my biggest grievances about LinkedIn is everything's going a little slow tonight. So in the skills section of LinkedIn, if you list skills, there's no real, oh my gosh, it's going super slow. There's no real way to understand how well do you know any one of these particular things. They're just like bullet points on a resume. Like, how well do I know, let's say, C# versus Java versus Node? Now, they did introduce these little skills badge things, but I actually did a survey, and it turns out that most recruiters don't care about them. They don't assume. The way that you get a skills badge, PS, is you have to pass a test. You have to score in the top 30%. So as a tech hirer, I know that, but from the recruiter standpoint, they might not know that. The other thing I know too is that I don't assume that if you don't have a skills badge that you're not good at it, because not everybody does these tests. I just like little tests and little quizzes and things like that. So I take them. So figuring out weight is a really thing that we're doing relatively quickly is hey, I see that you listed the technology I'm looking for, but are you talking about it in the most relevant work experience? That's the way that I look at it. Matt, do you want to chime in and add any flavor there?
I'm a little more generous. I would have inferred Node.js from the first job listing there. Just the other things in that stack, I'm like, yeah, they're probably using Node on the server. And I don't know that I've ever evaluated one looking for the technical skills in the bottom part. I'm lazier than that. So it's a good tip for me.
Well, there you go. I mean, yeah, and like I said, that actually just kind of illustrates the point that we're looking at things different. And I wish it was, and it's the goal is here is transparency. We're just trying to tell you kind of how it is. But if I have, it sounds bad, but hiring is not always our top priority. Meaning it's a part of my day, but I usually have to sneak it in within minutes of being asked. And so I'm trying to figure out a pocket of time because we know that candidate response time is incredibly important. So if you apply for a job, our goal is to get back to you within a couple of days, the recruiter, which means in that couple of days, Matt and I's calendar could already be full. And so we have a client meeting we got to be at. And then we have another client meeting we're going to be at. And I got to somehow sneak in just looking at your resume super fast to be yeah, let's talk to them. No, it's not. And the reason why, like I said, I wish there was more time, but it's as a job seeker, you want both things, right? You want a quick response time, and you want you want a yes, of course, as well too. And so we all got kind of our system to go through things quickly. So yeah, that's just some transparent honesty. I'm going to pause for a second and just let you guys ask questions, and then I'm going to talk more about the specifics of McKinley's resume here. Questions at all about anything we said so far?
So Matt, when you said that you don't look down below, are you pretty much exclusively looking at the list of technical skills to see if it lines up?
No, I do look down, and that's where I get the most value, is looking at what kind of things have you done. But I wouldn't be like, oh, they have React. I want to see React consciously down below somewhere. I don't know if I've ever made that connection. I do usually skim the tech skills and like check, 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 check. Okay, they got half of what, most of what I'm looking for. And then I really want to, the list of technical skills doesn't tell me anything. Like, I don't know if you're good at JavaScript or whether you just touched it once and put it on a resume. So what I want to see is something that indicates that you've done something substantial in JavaScript down below. I'm not usually like, okay, I see Node up top and go look for Node explicitly down below. I probably would infer based on the stack, Finoda part-time, that looks like a Node stack. So even if you didn't list Node explicitly, I'd probably just assume that it was part of that. But I would want to see like specifically like what you did on a team within the team using those tech. I've seen people that take credit for their team's work, and so I want to see what you were doing specifically with those things. Not just that we were on a team that used Node, and you ask about it. I never touched the Node server. I was always in the React. I'm like, well, then you lied to me. So I appreciate looking for explicitly what you did.
That's a super good point. And I think maybe rephrasing it, I'm probably more in the camp that you are. I don't like match one for one. It's not like I take each bullet point and match it down below, but like if I'm scanning things, I'm like, oh gosh, I need to hire a React Native developer, and I get this resume put in front of me. And McKinley, I know you've written React Native, so I'm like, I'm sort of shocked that's not up here. But I'd scan this and be like, well, they touch React, but not React Native, so probably a pass. I just need somebody who's like touched it for more than like 3 months. Like that's just, React Native is so crazy. PS right now, by the way, if you spend any time in React Native, you will have an audience in 6 months for sure. So, but yeah, no, I mean, to Matt's point, if we are hiring like more of like a general posting, like, yeah, then I'll like read through. And I think Matt's point about be ready to get spot checked. We will ask you anything you list on this resume is fair game for the interview. And like the worst thing that could happen would be that we like bust you on one. I've had that happen. Like GraphQL is one of my favorite, is that people will put GraphQL on their bullet point list, and I'll start asking them GraphQL questions, and they're like, well, I did like the tutorial. I'm like, okay, then you really haven't written GraphQL, have you? And like, it's kind of just like a negative at that point, like it's like you're kind of coming back because I'm doubting your one bullet point. I've like already disproven, so to speak, one bullet point, and like I automatically assume the rest are kind of probably suspect as well too. McKinley, you have your hand up. I like the use of the hand.
Figured I'd be just put it up there. How do you both feel about, I've seen people put like the bars for relative skill level next to each tech. I personally keep thinking that fluctuates so much on a daily basis that there's no point in putting it on a resume. But do you find that to be a useful thing for people to say, I've worked the most with JavaScript, so I've given myself like 90% of this bar and done a tiny bit of Python, or feel like it would hurt me more than it would help me?
It might help within the context of a single resume to tell you what your strengths are compared to what you've more dabbled in, but it doesn't tell me, I don't know what your grading scale is. So you gave yourself a 9 out of 10 in JavaScript. I have no idea what that means. And I might ask you, like, I had heard this great question where the interviewer asked, like, how would you rate yourself in JavaScript? And they say 8. Okay, what's something that an 8 is really good at, but a 7 would struggle with? And then I kind of would figure out what your scaling ratio is. And if you say, well, an 8 in JavaScript means I know how to use a for loop, and I'm like, okay, then our scales are way different. And that gives me a very strong signal on your ratings, and that our ratings, our 1 to 10 ratings, are not aligned. So if you're going to do that, you got to be prepared to like kind of justify why you think you gave yourself an 8 out of 10 on JavaScript. That's why it might not be the best thing to kind of throw in there. Maybe a better way is something like, my strongest languages are these 3, and I've had a little bit of side experience in these other things. Just being honest about it. I like seeing a breadth of stuff, because like in our company, that's what's really interesting is employees that can switch between different technologies. So I like it when people have 1 or 2 things they're really, really good at, and a bunch of other stuff that they've kind of played with and dabbled in. That stuff is that's still a valuable signal to me. So it's useful to include, but I would still kind of want to know which ones are your bread and butter, so to say.
Yeah, I hit the bar. Once again, it's so subjective. It's just like, I think that to Matt's point, it's what context or what scale you're grading it on. And when I made the comment about like matching bullet points to like stories down below, that's for specific. At our company, like Matt said, we want to hire like people who have touched a lot of things and then like really are like geeking on one particular, like they have like one kind of core stack and they understand how to use that stack. But what's nice about a breadth of technology, like if you touch, things like Django or Flask in addition to Node, and then maybe try a little Spring, is that it tells us a story about what what need Node is filling. And so you go replacing with another technology and you understand the role that plays in the stack. And actually that's like the whole point of the next meetup in talking about like system architecture and software architecture, is understanding like what needs does technologies fill, and like thinking about things in abstract needs and like, how to arrange those things. And so let's go ahead and move on to just talk. Ted had a question. Where's my chat? Ted, what's your question, buddy?
Yeah, I can say it if you want.
All right, go for it.
So how important is it that, that our LinkedIn profiles and resumes match? So I would expect that most hiring managers and recruiters would want to see, it's most of the same content, not necessarily word for word, because obviously a resume and a PDF is a little bit different in terms of formatting with LinkedIn. But at the same time, I would imagine it's got to be somewhat important to have the same information depending upon who goes to visit what format of your experience in your profile.
Yeah, I will say that resumes continue to be kind of the 60% weight. I think that both GitHub and LinkedIn allow us to dive in a little bit more and get to know you better. So it's not that it necessarily needs to match. In fact, I'd hope to find more in those places. Like if I'm, the thing I always say about the materials process is like the first page of the resume should bring me other places. Like if it can bring me to your GitHub, if it can bring me to your LinkedIn profile, it can bring me to the second page. It's like that first page is effectively done its job. So like, and I like discovering things. I like finding new things. Like I love seeing more in your LinkedIn profile than I find on your resume, because I feel like the resume should be kind of like, it doesn't need to tell me absolutely everything. And I'm guilty of this. Like when I write resumes for myself, they're massive and I got to like really pare them down and really simplify them. I want to say so many things. But LinkedIn's a great space to like have more, and like, find more. But whether or not, a hiring manager ends up there is kind of suspect. Like I for sure I like looking at GitHub and LinkedIn profiles. I don't know, Matt, do you venture out that far, or do you go past their ATS at all?
I haven't typically. I've not always been finding it as a significant signal of good information.
Yep.
In terms of like LinkedIn, personally, I keep my LinkedIn like just very comprehensive. And then if I'm applying to specific places, I might tailor that down. That happens as you have multiple jobs to draw from. I might tweak the resume a little bit for a particular target company to highlight the things that I think are important to that company. So my resume is, my LinkedIn is very comprehensive, and I kind of pick and choose from that what I want for a particular gig that I'm applying for.
Case in point, you don't need to match.
Yeah,
but it's good if it does. But at the same time, I would say if it's not matching, it's because it's telling me more.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so McKinley, let's talk about your resume in terms of like a generalist role. First off and foremost, like I said, I really like the technical skills listed up top. That's a personal flavor. There might be different opinions based on where you're applying. You can hear it a lot of different ways, but for the most part, I think most tech hiring managers who are tech are going to be looking for those right away. And then work experience is great as a good follow-up. Once again, it's less dancing for my eyes to do. I like to match things. Apparently Matt doesn't, but that's good. I also think the professional summary up top is good too. Like I said, I feel like if I like what I'm seeing in this general area, my eyes will then kind of gravitate up north, and just, it gives me a little bit better idea of who you are. So like the bicycler nod, turn full stack developer, just a cautionary tale for everybody here. Don't over index on, personal opinion. So I just want to caveat that. with caution, be wary or careful about over indexing in personal. Like, I think this is like just the right amount. But I probably would be careful about kind of thinking about how much of that you want to add. Because once again, it's gonna be very tactical. And so I'm trying to like get to the parts that I think you can do the job. But once again, every hiring manager is a little bit different. So once again, kind of scanning things here, work experience. And so I like this is kind of school experience and then technical recruiter. Once again, I'm actually just trying to talk to you about what I actually haven't looked at your resume, so I'm gonna try to talk to this real time. I'm actually immediately scanning. The first thing I'm looking at is the title. The second thing I'm looking for is I'm quickly scanning technologies. So, you know, you're a non-traditional candidate in that you went through a program and you recareered. But what's cool at what I see here is that you touched tech in your previous job. So like I saw Tricom Technical Services as a technical recruiter, and then I'm actually seeing technical skills in here too. So like I know you're accustomed to talking to tech. So like that's like an immediate confidence boost for thinking about your gig. And then if I'm being picky, you know, it's always that question. I think this is at the bottom, so it's not hurting you, but over indexing kind of in your previous life or when you're applying for a software engineer role can be really dangerous because there's always this question about like, okay, well, what are you trying to tell me? And at this point, we're just from like a real estate standpoint, there's almost a third of a page dedicated to the bicycle tours. So are you kind of like the weird questions, are you using this to apply for bicycle tour jobs as well? And so basically tell me the story about software engineering. I think that the technical recruiter experience does a really good job. And I'm not saying you need to drop the tour stuff at all. I'm saying just thin it out maybe a little bit. Give me some relevant points about how it matches to what it is you're doing. And then education certificates. I dig that at the bottom. So I got to talk through what I'm looking at. I personally like a little bit of a blip, especially if you attend a program like Prime Academy or Full Stack or you know, any of the programs that are out there. Tell me what it is. Once again, this is about context. So there's a lot of different programs that are out there. So, you know, Prime Digital obviously is a 20-week immersive full-time program. So like if you could just spend a sentence or two underneath this explaining what Prime Digital is, that would be super helpful. Likewise, if you attend another program that might be part-time, give me an idea of length, like how long did you like devote to this? Like it helps me understand kind of what your background is, like what kind of commitment you made. And oddly enough, I know you're proud of Prime, and then the Bachelor of Arts is actually, I think it might be a little bit smaller font, but like that's pretty badass too. And so I think that the biology, Bachelor Arts with cellular developmental biology is really interesting. And so I think some equal weight there. Yale is on there. That's where, okay, I see. That's a formatting thing. I'm not super weirded out by that. Once again, I don't know if this is adding help. It's probably adding a little bit of noise just because like Yale's pretty badass. And so do you want that to have the same weight as some of these other things you have going on? And then the disconnected of the, no, I'm just nitpicking. I gotta stop. I'll stop nitpicking. Skills and interests.
No, nitpick on. I'm taking notes.
Yeah, no, and I'm trying to like get the key time boxes too. So, so skills and interests. I like the skills and interests at the bottom. Careful with your explanation points. You have 2, which is like a weird number. Like 1 or 3 is kind of the way to go. 2 is just 2 feels. Oh, there's another explanation point. I have to edit Rachel's communication because she like explanation points everything, and so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take you from a 7 down to like a 2. Is that okay? She's laughing over there. But overall, like I said, I think that there's always this question about like how long should the resume be? And the answer that I always just love is like as long as it needs to be, but not an inch more. And so the thing is like, remember that you're telling the story of how you can do the job. The other thing too is that trying to perfectly like get this to be 2 pages or perfectly get it to be 1 page or 3 page is actually kind of a moot point because the ATS is going to crunch it into however long it needs to be. So like sometimes the ATS, what it will do is it'll take this 1 page and split it across 2 pages in the view that I have, just because it's like going to squish it. So don't feel weird about doing a page and a half. Like that's fine, or page and 3/4. Like for the most part, we might not actually even notice it because the ATS is doing something weird with it. Just everything that you do, just make sure that like it's telling the story of why you think you'd be a good fit based off the job posting. So I'll shut up there. I'm going to just go through the LinkedIn block real quick and the GitHub block, just so we have enough time, and I'll pause for questions before we talk about Josh's. So LinkedIn, assuming everything is good, I'm going to go right to the top and look for your LinkedIn profile, which I don't see on here. So I'm going to we'll just skip over to your GitHub. Doesn't hurt to have LinkedIn on there. Like I said, if anything, LinkedIn can tell more of a story of your history, especially if you had to cut things to be job relevant. So just because I'm looking at this is the way that I would look at it in the ATS, there's the GitHub. I'm going to crawl over to GitHub real quick. So big note here, it doesn't need to be super professional. The one thing I would recommend just from an online presence is consistency between your LinkedIn and your GitHub profile. So whatever photo you use in your LinkedIn profile, you probably want to use in your GitHub as well too, just as a heads up. I will look at the activity graph. This is a personal thing that I'm pretty crazy about, so I know that I can be kind of weird about it, but a lot of times I will get people who put their GitHub profile and it's like completely blank. And I'm like, why did you give me your GitHub profile if you have like nothing on there? So plenty of activity, not a disqualifier. I just want to see like what you've been up to. The commit graph doesn't actually tell the whole story, because if you're like committing to private repos, depending on your settings, you may or may not have anything, but like seeing some activity was pretty cool. The thing that I'm going to check out right away is actually your pinned repos. Once again, if you listed your GitHub profile, this is fair game for me to look at. So what I like about your GitHub profiles that you have pinned, if you don't pin repos, it'll actually just display like essentially like random repos. I don't remember what the name for it is, but like GitHub will pick what it displays. And so you want to curate the story that you tell. And if you pin repos, you can basically say exactly what it is. Show people exactly what it is you're working on. And immediately, I want to say out of the gate, Matt and I talked about this earlier today. Like we don't look at code for the most part. We might, if we have enough time, crawl into the code. The thing I'm going to look into right away is a description. It's like the description's right here. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm immediately going to look at the README file. Like, perfect, you have one. Amazing. And it has shields. Great. So cool. Description 2 week sprints. This gives me some context about how long you spent on it. I love the screenshots. It's telling me what is going on. This is awesome. Now, there's a little bit of a different stance take. Actually, this is great too. Different stance depending on how far you are in your career. If it's your first job, I love these descriptions because it tells me the story of why you built the app. This is a very great detail about like talking about what the app is. As you get deeper in your career, it's gonna be less about what the app is per se, but maybe more about like, written description without screenshots, and then how do I get it running, right? Because like GitHub at its core is a code sharing platform or like a code collaboration platform. So the other thing that I like that you did here too is that you have development setup instructions. So you are actually talking about how to set up your application. So if somebody pulls it down, here you're describing how to actually get it set up. So this is awesome. Deploying to Heroku, lay of the land, cool. You're talking usage, great. This is super good. This is like a shining star, what I would hope to see in GitHub if I was looking at a candidate. So let's go. I might be satisfied with that and just be like, yep, LinkedIn or GitHub looks good. And then just because for consistency's sake, I'd see if you did the same thing in another app, just because that's the way I am, like the Luigi, and that looks pretty great too. At this point, I might actually crawl in the code. If I have the technical proficiency, meaning like as a hiring manager, like I might actually not have the technical proficiency that I'm hiring for, meaning like .NET famously is not my thing. I really like Python. I like JavaScript, and I like Java. So what I might do is I might invite this person in for an interview, and then make sure that Matt Burke is on that interview too, because his proficiency is .NET. So like this would probably be enough to get in. You're celebrating over there. You good? Okay, cool. And then just maybe to round this thing out, I'd go to your LinkedIn profile. Great professional picture. This is good. Banner image is fine. And honestly, I'm just scanning this. I'm not really doing much because mostly your resume and GitHub tells me everything you need. I'm actually the first place I'm going to go to. All the research, by the way, says profile picture, profile picture, profile picture. This is like what 95% of us looked at right away. So have a nice shot if you can. There's lots of tutorials how to do it with your phone if you don't have access to a professional photographer. But I'm gonna go down and look at your work experience because this is a nice chronological layout and it might tell me a little bit more, but for the most part, it's telling me similar things as your resume. Cool to see volunteer experience on there. That's awesome. And then I might just look at your top 3 and call it good. I scan LinkedIn. We don't, most honestly, a lot of developers don't use LinkedIn. So like, this is a bonus. This is like icing on the cake. All right. So I'm gonna shut up, pause there. Questions on anything that we brought up in this section? All right, Isaiah, what's your question? Yeah.
So do you have an opinion on GitHub profile readmes? I have one on my GitHub and I think it looks pretty cool, but if it like detracts from the technical stuff that you're looking for, I'd probably take it out.
What's you said it looks cool, but which is kind of a guarded statement. What about it might detract people, do you think?
Well, up top I have like a banner that I made with my name and like a cool background. And then there's just like like emojis, and there's like with those emojis it like connects. So there's like a mailbox emoji and it's like email me here, and there's a little person talking emoji. It's like connect with me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think I get what you're going for. But remember that like it is like a professional platform, like oddly enough, and so it's almost like it's not that it's bad. Like I definitely like hiring people that have personality, but like there's kind of like a good place to do that. And I think that like the goal is to get a conversation, and so like definitely like just communicating what you can do will be the thing that gets you the interview. It wouldn't be you're rolling the dice. Let me put it that way. And the question is that you're rolling it's not going to get you more, but it could detract you. So, and if you want, man, you can send it my way and I can give you an honest review of it and be like, fix these things. You might be good, or make it smaller. You might be good, but I'm more happy to take a look at it. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Matt, any statements about GitHub?
I think you covered it. I'm not gonna have time to dig through your code. I just want to see you got some stuff in there that you're proud of. Like there are ones that you're proud of, like highlight those in the pinned area. Then I'm not gonna drill into them and look at your commits and try to figure out what you're doing. If it's a project that multiple people worked on, I'm even less likely to look at it because I can't figure out what contributions are yours without rooting through Git history, and I don't got time for that. So the other thing I see a lot is people link to their GitHub and it's all like kind of homeworky kind of things or things from college, and that doesn't tell me anything either. And it might as well be empty at that point. So if you're going to link to it in your resume, you should have something cool that you're proud to show off and that you're excited about and that you're would be happy to talk about during the interview.
Yeah, and actually on that note, it's funny you said that because that was exactly the moment that I noticed that McKinley had Cullen's salary calculator weekend 1, and it's nested in the middle of this. Like here you have a weekend 1 assignment and next to your other assignments. And I think these assignments come later. So it's like on the pin repos, I think you can have anywhere from like 1 to 6. And so you can certainly just drop anything it's earlier in the curriculum. Let me be really clear about something too. You don't need to delete your old homework off of GitHub. That's not what we're talking about. Like mostly it's like, what do you choose to show us is in the pinned, and that's the stuff we'll click on. So, I think I have like an absurd amount of repos. I think I have like 500 and something repos. And so I just like, here are the ones I want people to look at when they visit my page, that sort of thing. So curate that.
Yeah.
Once again, go ahead.
Sorry, mine's full of scattered homework type projects and things that I was messing with and experiments that I gave up on halfway through for one reason or another. So I don't usually hold it against anybody, but it's not helping you. Like if I go there and it doesn't give me any good signal, then it's just not useful, but it isn't going to hurt you. I just decide whether I'm going to learn something useful from GitHub or not pretty quickly and then move on.
Is it acceptable to not link out to your GitHub?
Yeah, I wouldn't even notice.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, is that we probably wouldn't even notice. I think that a lot of people too, especially if you have a couple of years of experience, like you might have not had any GitHub activity for the past couple of years. And so it wouldn't be, I don't think it'd be an issue. But certainly like if you graduate a program, you're going to want to have code examples. You want to show what you can do for sure.
Yeah, if you link it, sorry, go ahead.
All I was going to say is that's exactly the situation. I've been working for a few years, so my GitHub is essentially dead.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't hold it against anybody, because I understand that you're a professional developer, or you got a real life outside of, I don't have a real life outside of my job, but a lot of people do, and they won't have a GitHub full of experiments and weird stuff. And that's fine. That's why I look at, if you link to it, then that's you saying there's something valuable here. And if there's not, that makes me raise an eyebrow, but I'm not going to hold it against you, because I understand that people have real lives and they don't keep those things up to date. So if there's nothing useful there, then don't bother linking it. But either way, I'm not going to. GitHub can probably only help you. I'm not going to, unless there's something really weird in there. Like, it's either going to tell me nothing or it's going to tell me something positive, and I don't spend enough time to go looking for something negative inside of GitHub anyway.
Sean, I'm not sure I understood your question. So you were asking with the Slack channel, asking as a Matrix user. Some specificity would be awesome. What are you looking for, buddy?
It's a separate chat service that offers bridges into other networks like Discord and Slack and various other things. I was just wondering if you had support for that, because usually when you set up something like that on the Matrix side, there still has to be like support put in on the other end by an admin.
Yeah, we're not that fancy yet, but we certainly could look at adding that, because I assume it's just an app that you'd add like any other Slack app. So we will take a peek. Okay, I want to hop over to Josh's. Sorry, let's do portfolio site really quick, McKinley, and then we'll hop over to Josh's. So I know, Rachel. Rachel's like, you have 15 minutes. Well, we've talked about a lot, so I can kind of like, we can do the quick run with Josh, and I can give Josh just pointed feedback. So I think we're okay. So just a quick note on portfolio sites. I get this question a lot from people. I don't care about them, honestly. And in fact, this is gonna be one of those areas that will hurt you more than help you in a lot of cases, because GitHub profiles typically from a code standpoint could tell me everything I need to know about code. So when we get into the portfolio site, the only time I think it really matters is when you're applying for like a front end position. So I'm not talking about React. I'm talking about like you're like SAS, CSS, like you're like a styling machine. So it's good, but it's going to tell me already out of the gate. It's telling me already what I found on GitHub. So I lied. I do like the GIF. That's pretty cool. That shows me how to use the app. I think little videos are good too. It's like if you embed like a Vimeo or YouTube video, but I like the GIF too because it auto plays. For the most part, this tells me a lot of the same information. So I'm gonna click on one just to kind of, and this might be less than 20 seconds. Oh, cool, video. Here's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna flip through a couple of slides and then turn it off. Technologies used. This is a lot of the same thing that GitHub tells me. So, and the only reason I bring that up is because McKinley, like it looks nice. I'm not saying you did a bad job, but when people are job seeking, they're trying to figure out like, where do you spend your time? That Readme is awesome because like I have to write Readme. We have to write Readmes all the time in our job. And like, that's like a preferred display format. So it's good. It looks good. Is it adding value? Maybe if I get to that. Like I said, I got a couple minutes to look through your whole entire thing. And so I'm doing it pretty rapidly. So I may or may not get to that. Let's go Josh real quick. So I want to go through Josh's. I'm actually going to kind of just go through the whole like just sequence of things. Like if I was like doing a quick review, and I'm just going to talk through my thought process as I'm like going through it. So the situation is this, my recruiter is confident that she has the person that we should talk to. So I fire it up and the ATS shows me the resume. So immediately what I like about it is it says red full stack software engineer. That's pretty cool. And I'm trying to like immediately get to the technical skills. And so it's weird because full stack software engineer, and I have to kind of dance around a little bit to get to them. Not a big deal. I'm not like, that's not me complaining because it's there. It's actually in the upper full, I could see professional skills. Professional versus technical probably doesn't matter. Okay, so a couple of cool things that jump out right away. Learned C# and .NET, learned Azure DevOps. Cool, you touched them. Like those are actually the first technical things that I see. So I'm scanning more, and it's really not until I get to this lower half that I get to really like where the tech skills are. So my concern is not actually as the tech person, because like the assumption is that the tech recruiter screened the resume. My concern is that the tech recruiter might be scanning too fast and not see some of the stuff jump out. So, and then once again, this is going to be all about what we're hiring for. And so I would hope, if you were, this resume would be geared more toward a .NET or C# position, because that's automatically what it feels like, just because that's listed first. And it's not really until I get to the professional skills I see that JavaScript is listed first. Once again, we're kind of trying to answer this quick index question of like how much, like what's the proficient technology? Like what's the one that you're really focused on? So I know a lot of people want to play the role of generalist and like, I can do everything. And it's like, cool, like tell me in stories, but like get the tech out there as well too. Okay. Personal skills, y'all, like I don't know. And maybe Rachel has a strong opinion on this, but like, I'm going to find out within 5 minutes of talking to you how much of this stuff is true. And so once again, there's a lot of subjectivity here. I would just argue, just bump professional skills to the top, and personal skills, I don't know, maybe.
Certainly swap the order.
Yeah, swap the order for sure. It's one page. That's kind of nice. Everything's tight in here. If you list college, list maybe what you went after, but I'm cool with it. The format's weird. Go ahead.
Sorry, like nitpicking things. I don't know what Canomikes is, so it doesn't tell me much about what the application does until I read a little further. That's about customer shipping and samples. Which again, okay, it might be in like the medical space, maybe, I don't know. So it might benefit to have a little bit of an explanation of what Canomikes does.
Yeah, Rachel stumbled across this really cool article that was talking, or I can't remember if it was an article or LinkedIn something or another, where basically like if you list like a position or you list like a project you're working on, just a sentence or two, just like the like, hey, this is what this is goes a long way. Oh, Adam Karpiak. That's another person you should follow. So Amy Miller was the first person I recommended on LinkedIn. The other person is Adam Karpiak. First off, Adam Karpiak's hilarious, but he is a recruiter and he is a brilliant with memes, but he has a lot of good advice as well too. Super popular guy. Yep. Just a little blip on that would be good. Swiftly learned. I like that. Adapt to the changing. Yeah, I think your supporting bullet points from your past life are really, really clean and concise, and I can see why that would add value. Okay, cool. Let's hop over to your. So I'm gonna go up here. GitHub. Perfect. Sorry to load it up. Josh, you look angry in your photo here. So I'm just gonna check your. Also look angry. Actually, I like the nature. Nice and active, popular repositories. So this is what happens. So I remember I said before, if you don't explicitly tell GitHub what ones you want to pin, this is what it will do. It'll actually say popular repositories, and it will sort it out. Meaning that like you're kind of leaving GitHub to decide what it is that's actually going to display in this upper fold. So curate that, because the very first thing I'm gonna do is click on this one, and I'm hoping there is a README file, and there's not. I'm like, okay, cool. Then I'll hop to the next one. Are you changing it as I'm working? As I'm going through it right now? You're diabolical, sir.
I actually changed it when you were showing McKinley's. So. Oh,
right on. I had it loaded up from before. You brilliant. Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna click on this one, and look at that. README. Boom. Okay, cool. So already instant improvement. That's awesome. This is cool. So actually, it's beautiful. I'm a sucker for good imagery. Prerequisites, installation, usage, customer, cool. All that stuff is good. Let's go back to the top. What is it? Team experience, developing. Cool. Yeah. Like this is actually would be pulling a sentence or two out of this to address Matt's point in the resume would be super brilliant. Deployed version of the app. Oh my God. Amazing. 404. Womp womp. So you gotta fix the link in there. But if you can get deployed versions live, like if I can click on a link and I can actually just go touch the thing, awesome. Deploy your apps, please. Also, too, check your deployments from time to time, especially if they're in your first or second repo. Heroku breaks things a lot. They update systems, so you got to kind of maintain those things. I definitely have a very broken deployment on one of my repos right now. It's within my upper fold in my pinned repos. So they recently updated a version of Redis and it broke my app. But if you have deployed link, or if you have links, make sure all the links work. Test them all out. I will definitely go click and play, and I will only be impressed if it's working and snappy. Yeah, this is good. Cool. Like Matt, I'm not going to go through your commits. I'm probably not going to go through your code. The caveat to that is I will probably go open your code during your interview. So be ready that any code that's posted in those pinned repos is fair game for an interview. Because one of the things that we're going to do in the interviews, we're going to actually ask, like, how did you develop this feature? Talk me through why you developed this feature, or what features would you add? What steps would you take to add that feature? So you got to know your apps pretty damn well. I want this featured section to be cool, and like I just wish LinkedIn would do more with it. Cool. Just taking a quick breeze through website building. Careful with that website building. Once again, websites are going to be different than applications. I would actually bump the order for full stack developments and software development. I'd bring those up. So I'm going to ignore that. I endorse you. There you go. I may or may not go below the fold. Those top three actually are pretty important. So I think that the other thing here too is, like, if you are, to Matt's point, if you're curating your LinkedIn profile for a job you really want, and let's say like it's like Python job, or it's like a, let's say Python. If you're going for a Python job, get that Python in the upper three for sure. Don't worry too much about numbers of endorsements. Like I said, LinkedIn is a little bit of a popularity contest. It's really about how much you use the platform. And also too, endorsements have really tapered off in terms of popularity in the past 2 years. And so like, there's just not a lot of endorsement people. Like, people are not going to profiles and endorsing as much as they used to. So don't worry about having numbers up there. Just curate for the thing that you want to be when you grow up.
I don't trust endorsements. I mean, fully half the ones I have are from people that are in no place to evaluate my actual skills. So I know that my endorsements are all nonsense. So I don't know that I trust other people's endorsements either.
I will say one of the things that they do is that they will include it's like 99 plus, like to Matt's point, like, but
no 99 people. I don't even know how this happened.
But there is this little thing that says, and 7 others who are, it's highly skilled at this, but even that's super subjective. So just because
I don't know who Aaron Halsridge is.
Aaron Glogie?
Whoever that was.
He was a super nerd at nerdery. He was, okay. Yeah, he's good people. I've already endorsed you apparently. So yeah, you
Scott's all over my profile.
Yeah, you can't trust those people in those endorsements. But yeah, I think Josh, the biggest thing would be, I'll go back here. I think this is where tab is. If you were applying, and I know you already got a job, so you don't need to worry about this. This is not a problem you need to worry about right now. I do think the simplified resume, simplified layout would be totally acceptable. This is pretty, don't get me wrong. I'm not arguing that. My worry is that the ATS would chew it alive and reformat and do lots of weird things. And so it might not come across the way you're looking. And then professional skills over personal skills, just if you're applying for a tech job. I wish the world was different, but we're going to get a sense. The one thing that Matt and I know is that we are going to get to know you really damn quick in an interview. In fact, most of the interviews can be like, hey, what does this person know? And are they cool to work with? So, so like, don't, a lot of times we get this question about personality and resumes, and like, it's just not the right time. Because like at the end of the day, like, you could be the coolest person on the planet, but if you can't do the job, then like, we want to hire you, we want to work with you, but like it might not be a good fit at that time. So convey that you can do the job, which I always get the question. I get asked this a lot. Yes, you need to cater your resume to the job that you're applying for. It is a lot of work. I get it, but it is super important because once again, if you have a hiring manager who is looking to fill a specific need and they have those needs written in the job posting, like if we're scanning within, and it's not like 7 seconds. I think there's like that big myth out there, like, oh, the hiring managers only look at it for 7 seconds. We'll look at it for a couple minutes, but like, we're basically just trying to figure out quickly whether or not you can do the job. So yeah. And like the most recent example would be, we were trying to hire a Swift developer and, they would get put forward by our recruiters because they had like Objective-C experience, which, was also iOS development. So I was scanning resumes, really like a bunch of resumes really quickly that had plenty of Objective-C, but I was scanning quickly for Swift. And that's just what we needed. That was just the requirement. And it's not the person was a bad person, it was just what we needed. So just keep that in mind. And we're not like everybody, but just a perspective once again. Okay, we are at time, but I'm more than happy to hang out for a little bit longer to answer any questions y'all have. So I will shut up right now and answer any questions or anything and chat about anything y'all want to chat about.
So if we're supposed to cater our resumes to that one particular job, well, should we not put that resume on our LinkedIn? Because that's what I was thinking of doing. I saw that was kind of like the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, Rachel says it best. She always says, like, have your master resume that has everything that you want to say, like, right? Like it could be like the 3-pager, and that could probably go up there on LinkedIn, right? Because if it's a blanket place to collect a resume, you're going to kind of hold everything. But when you apply for a specific job, whittle it down to the relevant parts. Once again, the mistake I think a lot of job seekers make is that they try to tell their full story when the question that's actually be trying to ask, it's like me asking the question like, hey, do you like pasta? And you are like, I like pasta, I like pizza, I like turkey, I like Thanksgiving food, I like Mexican food, I like sushi. It's like I just asked you if you like pasta. Like, that's just kind of the thing. It's like we're trying to figure that out really super fast. And I don't by any means think that like your experience is limited to the resume that you handed me. But if the resume answers the question of whether, what experience do you have in the thing that I need? If I can get that answer as a yes, I will call you and we will hang out and we will interview you, like, right. And we'll talk more about it. And this is where we kind of get to discover each other a bit more and learn more about each other. Like, oh man, yeah, you like pizza too. I like pizza. That's awesome. Like that's the appropriate time for that conversation. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. I like pizza and pasta, by the way. I have questions in chat. Hang on a second. I am super far behind my chat. I know, Rich. I'm trying. All right. Hang on a second. Carpiak is amazing. Well played, Josh. Okay, cool. Oh my gosh, Dad, stop texting me. And it's my wife, and yeah, it's my dad and my wife texting each other about a fawn. At one point, to consider about including personal skills, is there usually very subjective things? Okay. Yep. Yeah. This once again, Ted's kind of addressing the subjectivity of personal skills. Like I said, it's tough, right? Like I saw grit on there. By the way, I love that word grit. And P.S. The most common one you don't want to include is attention to detail, because the first thing, it's like a game for hiring managers, is that attention for detail. We're going to look for grammar and spelling errors right away, guaranteed. It becomes a little bit of a game at that point. So you pointed out learned specifically, and it brings up an interesting point. How much does it draw your attention that these were picked up on the job versus what was needed versus something? That's a really good question, Sean. I think like it's really, there's this big thing in software engineering. It's not, yes, it's about what you know, but it's also like you have to illustrate like what you can learn in a very quick amount of time. And so I think, because like one of my favorite things to do in a tech interview is like figure out where does the runway end, because I want to get a good idea of like, so like if somebody says they know JavaScript, this is why I love to like bring Matt in on .NET interviews or like Swift interviews, is because Matt's going to go figure out what the boundary of what you know is, and he's going to basically ask a sequence of questions until he finds the point where you're like, oh, this is where your knowledge ends. And it's not so much that you need to produce an answer for that question, but you need to like demonstrate curiosity and like basically like, yep, like I have that on my list of things to learn, but I have not tackled that yet. And I think like being open and transparent about what you know is super important. But also like the thing you need to do to counter that is be like, yeah, I ramped up on this, like, over the course of the past few months, and I've been working on using a side project. And so I'm learning as I go. Right. Or, and so how do you communicate that in a resume? Learn is interesting. I think that at the same way, you could also just say like, we kind of assume that every person who has software engineering experience is probably learning as they go and whatever they're working on. Meaning like, I've been doing JavaScript for the past 10 years and I still find myself learning things. But if I applied for a Python job, I'm still, learning Python. Like I know a lot of Python, but I'm still learning it. But the way I would talk about it in a resume is I would just say, built this project with Flask or Django and Python, that kind of thing. So do you need it? Probably not. But does it hurt you? Probably not. I just thought it was interesting. I'd never seen it before. I've lots and lots of resumes I've looked at it. It's never really come up before, but I think it is fine. I like to, once got an endorsement for cashiering. I like to endorse people for weird things, like mountain climbing is like my favorite thing to endorse people for, or like, you can also endorse people for like the commodities business. Like you can literally endorse people for sheep. That's kind of fun. Are cover letters a thing? Do companies still want them? Some do. One of my favorite companies on the planet actually uses them and loves them. So Blizzard, the game company, they love their cover letters. They talk about it in their documentation, which brings up a good point. If you are applying for your dream job, research the hell out of them. Meaning like you should know, first off, you should be researching them before you actually like apply there. So like if there's like a company you're like have your heart set on, like a career destination, like research them well before they have the job posting. You should know, you should watch all their HR videos. You should look at their Twitter feed, that kind of thing. Now, if you're just applying because you need a job, like you may or may not need a cover letter. You definitely get better at writing them over time. But I think that having kind of like a cover letter, like base cover letter is fine, but there's got to be some level of customization. I think that the goal of the customization is to kind of point back to something that they had mentioned in a blog post. Like, hey, I read a blog post and you had mentioned that your team loves cats, and I love cats. So like I was really excited to read that when I saw that in your blog post, and that's part of the reason why I'm applying here. Like you're just somehow showing that you are not just throwing your resume and cover letter over the fence. So cover letter is a really great way to like create association between you and that company. How much do you care that portfolio have write-ups in addition to the project demo? Honestly, if you have a demo, that's good. I just need to know what the project is. Sometimes I'm like some people only hand me a link. They're like, check this out. I'm like, click. All right, what the hell do I do? Because they don't explain it in app, right? So if you're going to throw a demo app over to a hirer, you got to be ready to like think about that from like, if you were to put that on the app store, is the hirer going to know how to use the app, right? So just like apps on the app store have some explanation within the app, like be ready to have that as well too. Host said recommends, particularly for backends. I think that right now, if you can do anything in cloud, that is worth a ton. So if you definitely pick up like Elastic Beanstalk or some sort of Azure solution or GCP, just something. So Google Cloud Platform, Azure, and Amazon Web Services. Like if you can touch any of those, I think that's super great. What's nice about Heroku, of course, is that it's free. The only drawback to that, and I ran into this with Josh's portfolio site, was that there is a load time. So it looks like the app is broken. Now I know better because I use Heroku a lot. So if it hasn't been spun up in a couple of hours, it's like a 7 or 8 second delay. And I will tell you that hiring managers will be like, and so you have to pay $7 to Heroku in order to have like that thing, like instant load. In fact, Aftercamp.io is currently on a Heroku instance that we pay like $7 a month for, and it insta loads. So just be aware, like if you have like portfolio pieces you're really proud of and you want to make sure hiring managers see it, pay to host just a little bit, so that way the thing fires up right away and it's looking shiny. But it can be Heroku.
Azure also has that problem. They have a freeze here too that has even worse cold start times, I found after switching.
Yeah. AWS is a lot more work than Heroku. I totally agree, but it is a really, really valuable skill to learn. Absolutely. In fact, 2 sessions out, we'll be talking like AWS services. I think every developer should touch. So that's coming. Wrestling with Route 53. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Matt Burke. I think if you just give it some time, you think you'd be fine, dude. I lean towards Azure. I don't know how you find Azure more user-friendly. This is a war now between you and I. I love AWS. Platform as a service that doesn't insist on frequency. Yep. Cold start. Yeah, for sure. Josh, thank you so much, man. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for volunteering as well too. Other questions or anything else you guys want to chat about before we wrap up? Was this helpful? Did you guys learn something? Please say yes. I see some nodding.
Yes, yes, we did.
Awesome. I am more than happy if you all want to send me your stuff to look at. I can work through it and I can pick through this. What's that? Awesome. Rachel is going to drop the Slack. If you're not in our Slack channel, you can definitely find me really quickly there. You can talk to me throughout the day or talk to Rachel throughout the day. But yeah, if you send me stuff to look at, I'd be more than happy to just kind of just do a friendly review. I always get asked the question too, are we hiring? We're not hiring right now. But you'll be the first people that I will let know when we are actively hiring again. Matt, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hope it was somewhat useful.
Do me a favor, everyone. Connect with Matt Burke on LinkedIn and endorse him for things.
Yeah, endorse me for weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Magic
cashiering.
and cashiering.
Juggling, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Thanks for hanging out. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks to chat about system architecture and software architecture.